Trump's tariffs will make Bitcoin hit $1 million faster than you think. What's up, guys? Well, welcome back to the channel. So this video, we're going to be talking about the impact of Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs on Bitcoin's price moving in the future, and why this is such a huge catalyst, I believe, for Bitcoin's march well past $100,000, past previous highs, and all the way to $1 million, a lot quicker than you think. So be sure to, like I said, guys, stay tuned to the end of this video where I give you guys the exact blueprint on how Bitcoin will hit $1 million, most likely before as early as 2029, until when Donald Trump is going to be leaving the White House when he finally completes his second term as presidency. So you're going to really be sure to be tuning to this video, because I'm going to be dropping some stuff on here that really I haven't seen anybody else talk about, and really kind of just pounce on the point that I've been making on why it's so important for people to get into Bitcoin now before you're playing catch up and you're having to basically join the Bitcoin network at much higher prices. So be sure to give this video a thumbs up as well if you kind of agree with what I'm saying. So let's talk a little bit about these tariffs. So basically, it's sparked outrage across the world. Lots of countries are worried now, okay? Stock markets sold off, and even crypto began to crash. Really the only kind of, I would say, index that improved was gold, okay? Gold shot up past $3,100 on this news, as a lot of people dumped stocks, dumped crypto, and moved into the safety of gold. But I believe the crypto sell-off is temporary, and I really believe that Bitcoin now will officially solidify itself as the best safe haven for money over the long run, even surpassing gold, and we're going to get into it right now. So basically, Trump's tariffs are basically taxes on imports coming to the United States. Now, the only reason Trump has done this is, number one, the government needs to figure out a way to generate revenue other than, charging Americans income tax, okay? And for years and years, companies have been importing their products into America, pay little to no tariffs, while on the flip side, America's always had to pay a lot of countries a pretty high tariff. So there's actually a list of some of the tariffs that Trump basically enacted. So he has a 10% baseline tariff, right? So that's going to countries like UK, Singapore, Brazil. This is basically reciprocal. So for example, the United Kingdom charges American imports 10%. So we charge the UK 10%. But what's interesting is Trump's reaction to a lot of these countries that have been basically taxing American imports extremely high. So we've got some tariffs here, like the EU is 20%, China 54%, Vietnam 46%, Thailand 36%, Japan 24%, Cambodia 49%, South Africa 30%, and Taiwan 32%. So what basically Trump has done is he's basically struck back at a lot of these countries that have been making a fortune off of Americans having to import the goods into their country. And this is kind of his way not only to generate, obviously, more tax revenue, but to erase the trade deficit. So why is this so important for Bitcoin? Well, I'm going to tell you why. It's really important for Bitcoin because at the end of the day, the reason why a lot of these tariffs have to exist is because the inefficiencies of government fiat currencies, okay? Especially for some of these countries with much smaller GDPs. Now take a country like, for example, the UK, very strong GDP. So they don't need to charge a lot of money to American imports, because the British pound is a very strong currency, okay? The British pound is over 300 years old. It's very sound. It's very strong. Now, obviously, it's not, as strong as gold or Bitcoin, but it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, current, fiat currencies in use. But the problem is that some of these other smaller countries, GDP is much smaller, they have to use high tariffs to basically earn more revenue because their currency is much weaker in comparison to the US dollar. And the only reason the currency is weaker in comparison to the US dollar is because using fiat currencies to begin with is very inefficient, okay? It really stifles economies, and it makes it harder for the average Joe to save money and build for the future. So why is this going to send Bitcoin to $1 million? Because this is basically Liberation Day is what Donald Trump called it on April 2nd, 2025. But this is also the countdown, I believe, to the end of fiat currencies as not only a store of value, but as the preferred trade mechanism moving forward from 2025 and on. And that's simply because all of these tariffs and taxes and reciprocal tariffs and blowback and all of these things are being caused because the fiat system itself is inefficient. Guys, we all live on one planet. It's only a matter of time until we use one currency. One planet, one currency. And obviously, it would be ridiculous to force other countries to use the American dollar or to use the British pound or the euro because, well, there are many countries in the world. But when people join together and understand that Bitcoin can serve as that universal currency that can be sent at the speed of light, that can transact and it can, transcend language, nationality, gender, culture, whatever. And one Bitcoin in Japan is the same as one Bitcoin in the United States. This is the catalyst that will send Bitcoin well towards $1 million. And now that Bitcoin is 16 years old, we've kind of seen how it's transitioned. Early on, it started out with some, kind of a weird way when Bitcoin first started out. It was basically used as speculation. Okay, it was also used for lots of underground transactions that necessarily certain people didn't want the government or certain authorities to be able to track. And then as Bitcoin's price started going up higher and higher, it started being used as like digital gold, a store of value. And then as Bitcoin's price continued to increase, people used it as an investment vehicle, right? A way to outperform the S&P 500, a way to outperform gold, a way to outperform real estate. But now that Bitcoin is 16 and it's becoming not just a more mature asset, but it's literally hitting, it's creeping closer to its 18th birthday, to its 21st birthday. We're starting to really see Bitcoin become, and I believe will become, the default global trade currency. The strongest, easiest way to transact amongst people. Because right now, what Donald Trump is doing is this is really the demise of the U.S. dollar. Like I said, a lot of people believe that no one man should have that much power, and we just saw the power that Donald Trump has over the entire global economy with his tariffs. These tariffs will cause a huge impact across the world. It's going to be very bullish for the American economy in the long run, but in the short run, expect Americans to experience higher prices. And a lot of these foreign economies that were making a fortune off of imports, they're going to see their sales decline. Because usually with these tariffs, what happens is companies simply pass on the cost to the consumer. So now Americans are going to see much higher sticker prices for everything from automotive goods to things you would purchase at Walmart, even foods that are imported from foreign countries. So it's going to really cause Americans to sit back and think, do they really want to purchase foreign goods at a higher sticker price, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of reducing inflation, where this is going to cause some inflation. Now, this is good, of course, for American and small businesses now that are based and founded in America. They should attract more money. But also, what's good for America isn't necessarily good for the rest of the world. And the rest of the world could and probably will end up dropping the US dollar as the global reserve currency. So if the dollar is no longer the global reserve currency, what's next? Well, it's not going to be gold, because we've already been through that, okay? Gold was used in biblical times. We live in the digital age now. It's difficult to transact in gold. But if the US dollar is no longer the global reserve currency, then what's next in line? Bitcoin. Bitcoin is waiting to finally be recognized as the best default global reserve currency of the 21st century. Now people are starting to understand why so many people like myself and millions of people from all over the world use Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin cannot be controlled or manipulated by any one person. Like we just saw, the US dollar is being manipulated by Donald Trump. These tariffs are just an attempt to kind of restore the trade imbalance and bring straight to the dollar back. But it could backfire if other foreign economies drop US treasuries and drop the US dollar. So how does this particularly send Bitcoin, okay, over $1 million? Well, like I said, only 5% of the world's population lives in the United States. So what this means is that 95% of the world's population lives outside of America. And if all of these 95% of people outside of America are going to drop the dollar, they have to replace it with something else. So now Bitcoin becomes a highly, highly, highly valuable reserve currency. And as you see already, at one time it costs $1 to purchase one Bitcoin. Now it's costing anywhere from around 80,000 to 85,000, depending on whatever price is, and its all-time high was over 100,000. So we're going to continue to see the value of the dollar decline in respect to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is going to start to really ascend far higher, and Bitcoin has already touched six figures. And the next move, right, the next Bitcoin halving is in 2028. After that next Bitcoin halving, before Donald Trump steps down as president, I really believe that Bitcoin has a chance to easily hit seven figures in US dollars. So this can also happen a lot faster than that. But this day, this Liberation Day, was kind of the beginning of the end, I believe, for the dollar as a global reserve currency. This was really drastic measures, and it just gives people a final, reason. If you see what's going on right now with the global markets, the global economy, how Donald Trump and his list of reciprocal tariffs has caused complete chaos in the markets, you can understand why people are drifting and more attracted to Bitcoin every day. Listen, I'm an American. I want the US dollar to do well, but I don't believe the United States or any other country should be able to impact any other economy like that over a 45-minute speech. It's quite absurd. In 2025, we should have already gotten past that. So as Bitcoin continues to add another digit, so it's already hit six figures, and it will hit seven figures. So what this means is that inevitably more and more people are going to just start plunking some of their money, if not all of their money, into Bitcoin. Now, right now, gold is the asset of choice, but Bitcoin is considered digital gold. So in my opinion, gold will continue to rise, and then Bitcoin is going to spike very sharply. And I can easily see $1 million Bitcoin happening within the next, 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years max. Simply because, it's just so much money that is sitting in currencies and bonds, in real estate and stocks and all of these assets that are just easily manipulated by third party, even just one individual. Okay, at this point in the United States, there are five American guys have more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans. It's only possible using a global fiat system where that kind of inequality and that wealth inequality has been able to happen. It's ridiculous. So it's not surprising that Trump announced the crypto reserve before he announced his tariffs. This is all part of his plan. This is all part of his plan to switch and to strengthen Bitcoin as the true global reserve currency in the future. And the reason he's doing this is because I think deep down inside he knows he just really can't save the dollar. The dollar, the way the dollar was created, it's created to lose value. The US dollar over the last 100 years has lost 99% of its purchasing power. So there's nothing that Trump can do to save the dollar. The dollar was created to be inflated away eventually to nothing because it's not backed by anything. That agreement was broken in 1971 when it was backed by gold. So this is all by design, and I think Trump is just, waving the white flag and saying, look, we can't get by on the dollar being the global reserve currency anymore. He announced the crypto reserve before, and then now he's announcing the tariffs. So he's trying to position the United States to be in control of Bitcoin and assets like that because he knows that's where we're going inevitably. He knows people are going to get tired of the fiat game, of the tariffs and all of these things, and they're going to be moving towards a more sound, stable cryptocurrency, something that can be easily tracked, easily monitored, sent very quickly, things like that. And that's Bitcoin. So I don't really see any other crypto out there that has the same qualities of gold and it's scarce and that would be a good, global reserve currency. It's very valuable and it's easy to recognize. Everyone recognizes the orange bee logo. It's not like, and it's the oldest one. It's not like some of these newer cryptocurrencies that are basically, in my opinion, scams or the supply is too high and things like that. I just don't think that will work. So, when Bitcoin hits $1 million, okay, that's when Bitcoin is going to be considered like prime digital real estate. That's when you're going to really see a lot of businesses and a lot of people asking to pay me in Bitcoin. I want to receive Bitcoin. Do you have Bitcoin? We accept Bitcoin. And you won't see as much push towards accepting currencies by then because people understand when Bitcoin goes from $1 to a million, well, it's probably better to own Bitcoin than to worry about these currencies that are, unpredictable, and eventually you're going to you lose all their purchasing power and go towards the true intrinsic value, which is zero. And this is happening a lot faster than I thought. I know a lot of people out there have predicted Bitcoin hitting millions of dollars before. The names that come to mind are like Kathy Wood and Michael Saylor, and all of them have grandiose Bitcoin predictions well over $1 million. But I don't think Bitcoin will hit 5, 10, $20 million by 2028, 2029. But I think $1 million is pretty reasonable. And that's just simply because, this is really happening. This shift into a better, smarter, more sound, faster moving type of reserve currency that no one government or party controls, and that's Bitcoin. So that's just my opinion, guys. I think we're going to get there pretty soon. Even if it takes some bumps in the road, Bitcoin is probably going to be well over six figures by the end of 2025. And you're going to probably be really surprised to see Bitcoin hit seven figures, most likely before Donald Trump steps down as US president in January 2029. So what does this mean right now? Well, obviously the opportunity is there. If Bitcoin were to hit $1 million, that's still like a 12x from now. So if you put $1,000, you'd have 12,000. If you put 100,000, you might have 1.2 million. And you don't have to start like a lump sum into Bitcoin. You can do a lump sum, but a lot of people just dollar cost average. Every time they get some money, they just put some into Bitcoin. I always say at least 10%. Some people do 20, 30%, half. Some people save everything in Bitcoin. So it's really up to you what you want to do, but don't let this Trump tariff news scare you. Just remember that the pivot is Bitcoin, in my opinion. Gold and Bitcoin, okay? But for a lot of you guys watching this, you're much younger. You want to take some risk. You want to get greater returns. You're probably going to get greater returns on Bitcoin than you would with gold. Gold's done well recently, but Bitcoin's been outperforming gold well over the long run. So I expect that to continue simply because they can always dig up more gold from the Earth's crust. But at the end of the day, there's only 21 million Bitcoin. And, I could be wrong about this. This is not financial advice, but I'm just seeing that at Bitcoin only being 16 years old, I'm thinking, it's only 16 years old, it's almost, it hit 100K, but it's almost. What happens when Bitcoin's 18? What happens when it's 21, 25 years old? So, sky's the limit, I think. I think this news, it should shake some people and force people to take action that this currency, fiat currency manipulation, it has to end at some point. Most fiat currencies, global reserve currencies, don't stay in the place for long. Usually it's like 50 to 100 years max. And the dollar's been pretty strong now for 100 years or so. So it's about time that we've made room for a stronger, more fair, more honest global reserve currency that anyone can mine. And that's the best thing. I mean, you can't create US dollars. It's illegal. If you do it, you'll go to jail, you'll go to prison even for doing this. You can't counterfeit currency. But with the Bitcoin network, anyone can mine Bitcoin. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter where you went to school. All you need to do is purchase some mining equipment. You can mine Bitcoin as little as $20 with like one tiny little miners as small as a USB drive, or you can buy a full-fledged Bitcoin mining machine for thousands of dollars and plug right into the network and mine Bitcoin. So it's more honest. Anyone can mine Bitcoin. Anyone can buy or sell Bitcoin. There's no restrictions or anything like that. Whereas if you try to counterfeit government currencies, you're going to get arrested. So it's highly illegal. So that's one of the nice things about Bitcoin. That's one of the reasons I like it so much. It's just transparent and anyone can do it. And anyone has an opportunity to contribute to the network, mine Bitcoin, but also to use Bitcoin, transact it, save it. It's just so flexible. And it just has all of the qualities of good sound money that we haven't had in the past with currencies, gold, and things like that. I love gold. So gold I think is great, but it's just too heavy. Okay, and if you travel with lots of gold, you're probably going to get stopped at the airport. They're going to probably ask you why you have so much gold, and your gold can even be seized. But with Bitcoin, all you need is a software wallet, a hardware wallet, a cold wallet, right? And you can move, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin quickly. Or you can invest in Bitcoin ETFs and pay a small expense ratio and have the institutional guys, custody your Bitcoin for you and keep it safe. So it's just so much more flexible, I think. So that's what we're going to see. We're going to see what happens with the long-term impact of Trump's tariffs. I believe this is a huge catalyst for Bitcoin. I'm not so sure about all these other altcoins. That'll be for another video. But as of the research I'm doing right now, I think this is super, super bullish for Bitcoin. Not so sure about the altcoin market, although I'm pretty sure some of those will get lifted as well. So if you guys enjoy this content, let me know what you think. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos. And that's all I got until now, guys. Take care.